The fireworks between the ruling All Progressives Congress and the opposition People's Democratic Party intensified this week, as on Monday, both parties questioned the integrity and eligibility of their presidential candidates. The Tinubu-Shettima Presidential Campaign Council called on security agencies in the country to arrest the presidential candidate of the PDP, Atiku'S, for allegedly stealing public funds through special purpose vehicles. The call for Atiku'S arrest came in the wake of an allegation by his former media aide, Michael Achimugu, that he was privy to how the Atiku laundered public money through the SPVs. Responding, the PDP said that it was ironic that the presidential candidate of the APC, Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, who had been accused of perjury, forgery, treasury looting, corruption, and narcotic-related conviction, had been left out. The PDP also dismissed as irresponsible the attempt by the APC and its presidential candidate to divert public attention from the issues affecting Nigerians. Joining us on the show this morning to discuss the calls for Atiku Abubakar's arrest by the All Progressives Congress is Daniel Bwala, spokesperson for the Atiku Okowa Presidential Campaign Council. Welcome to the morning show. Good morning.
Thank you, Ayo, and good morning, Dr. Abati.
Well, good morning, Daniel Bwala, and thank you for joining us. Well, spokesperson of the All Progressives Congress, Festus Keyamo, has asked the security agencies to arrest immediately the presidential candidate of your party on the basis of allegations made by Michael Achimugu. And he's even saying that he's so convinced that Waziri Atiku Abubakar has a case to answer, that he is prepared to step down from the campaign and just follow up with that case in court. Your camp has only been responding with attacks on the Michael Achimugu and also, I guess, on Festus Keyamo. What exactly is the truth?
Well, that's not true. I have granted interviews, a couple of interviews, one to Voice of America, that of Germany, and yesterday on another TV station where I discussed in extensio the matter. So nobody is attacking Keyamo or Achimugu. Let me start from the point of law of what he wrote, that is, attack the issues frontally. It is believed that when somebody is called to the bar, he must have gone through the university before the law school where he would have been taught in criminal law the procedure that will lead up to the arrest of a suspect. First, you make a report. Two, the law enforcement will investigate. And three, if they find credible evidence, they will invite the person. If the person refuses to show up, they will declare him, if he can't be seen, they will declare him wanted or they will arrest him. And from there, they will charge him to court and prosecute. They teach that in part 2 and 3 of the university. Anybody who is a lawyer that does not know these basics and writes a letter to the law enforcement and call on the law enforcement to outrightly arrest somebody on the evidence of a paper that he wrote, that person's certificate must be questioned. That's to begin with. But I assume that when somebody has what we call a condition we call pantophobia, it's possible that even though the person may be experienced in law, but he can exhibit that. Pantophobia is a condition where somebody is having increased anxiety that is triggered by the fear of something. And I know that APC and Tinubu, Asiwaju Tinubu, they are presently suffering from pantophobia. It is a fear of imminent defeat that is staring them right in the face. And that fear, sometimes there are some people who can say it's justifiable because when somebody assumes that he will win, but every day of his life and their campaign, they are confronted with stacked chances of failure, it's possible for them to come up to throw in anything from the kitchen sink. The fear that the campaign is being shattered because some members of the campaign are not supporting, the fear that 2 days ago they had to call all the chairmen in the country and the vice presidential candidate had to tell them that, look, we are spying on you. We have some of you are not working for us. The fear that each time they gather people in a campaign and they shouted Nigeria, the people respond by saying, say Atiku, a meeting that they themselves called. The fear that people around them who are executives of states are secretly working for us. The fear that members of their campaign council are disillusioned and some complaining to resign. When you are confronted by that, you come to the biggest of all fears. The fear that there is nothing, no record to present to the Nigerian people that will warrant for them to be voted for, because obviously it is a referendum on them. So when faced by that, anything in the kitchen sink is possible for them to throw. And they are right now in a campaign trying to tell the nation that they are in control of the law enforcement, and that is why they could do certain things that are inimical and expect that the law enforcement will throw away the caution of the due process of law and do as they bid. So I am not surprised by that. Now, regarding what they said, okay, you wanted to say something?
No, go ahead. When you finish, I thought you had finished your statement.
Right. Okay. Regarding the allegation, yesterday I replied in extensio. They presented in their conference the blackmailer as a whistleblower. Now, there is a difference between a blackmailer and a whistleblower. If you're familiar with the nitty-gritties of law enforcement, anytime intelligence or report comes to them in the name of a whistleblowing, these are the facts they observe to differentiate whether he is a true whistleblower or whether he is a blackmailer. Number one, the complaint that is made. When did that happen? And this one, they complain about what happened when Atiku Abubakar was vice presidential candidate. So the blackmailer was not there. Everything he said was what he heard, which is hearsay. Number two, that the law enforcement will want to find out what the person complained about. Is he accessory to it? In the video or audio that the blackmailer reported, you could hear him saying, yes, I will handle them. Yes, I will handle them. In other words, he participated in the information that he claimed he was sharing, for which now he is revealing. Number three, the law enforcement will say the whistleblower, what is the motive or objective of the disclosure? Whistleblowers disclose that in the interest of public peace, safety, and national security, or organizational preservation of the integrity of the organization. But the blackmailers presents that in and attach certain attachments to it. In this case, this blackmailer, if you have watched the video, you will see him saying that in this election, I'm telling you this, why you will not vote for him. I'm telling you this, why Nigeria will not vote for him. In other words, he has politicized it. The last one that law enforcement will ask is that, is this whistleblower coming free of his free volition, or was he influenced, induced, or terrorized? In this case, you could see, even from the video, one of the video, he was sounding like somebody speaking at gunpoint. But we have credible evidence that is being financed and supported by All Progressives Congress. And you can look at his attachment to it. So on the basis of it, no law enforcement will treat that letter that they did, the conference that they did, as anything worthy of even consideration, not to talk of giving it the useless time of investigation. But we are not surprised they are doing that because of pantophobia.
All right. Well, thank you, Mr. Boala, for defining pantophobia and explaining or giving your response to the press conference that was held by the APC-PCC. But I want to ask you a question. I want to assume that you've listened to Mr. Michael Achimogo's, you've watched the video and listened to the audio recordings he had. I'd like you to confirm a few things. Number one, was Waziri Atiku Abubakar's voice in that audio clip? Number two, and this is speaking to Nigerians, so even away from the APC. Then number two, do you think that if a candidate is seen to be investigated on the grounds of corruption or diverting public funds, that is money belonging to Nigerians, which was stolen, do you think that is grounds for a presidential candidate to step down?
Right. So let me start with the two and come to the one. The second point, maybe you slightly misconstrued by making a conclusion that the Nigerian money was stolen. What they were trying to say in that blackmail was that Atiku Abubakar is corrupt because from the evidence of that communication released, Atiku Abubakar in the time past corrupted himself. And then number one, and I will answer that. Number one, you also said if that voice in that communication is the voice of Atiku Abubakar. Now, let me tell you, I am not in a position at the moment to deny or confirm that it is the voice of Abubakar. But what I did, and I've been doing is, like playing the devil's advocate, in the worst case scenario, even if it is the voice of Abubakar, the question I have asked is, in that communication, is the law breached? In that communication, is there an infraction of the law? And then you deal with the substance of the case. So let me deal with that. The only thing that they said in their press statement and they wrote in that their baseless letter is that in the communication, Atiku Abubakar said, we floated an SPV, and the SPV will use it in financing the political party activities. And they try to say in all their social media that SPV is a corrupt practice. And so I said that is expression of ignorance. SPV is a concept in corporate governance that of developing or creating a separate entity from an organization or entity or whatever business venture where the SPV manage risk. SPV is not unlawful, it's not illegal, except if the SPV commits the illegal act. So if Atiku Abubakar said there was an SPV created where we have consultants, when they get a job, they make remittance of support to the party, unless if you can show that crime has been committed, there is no evidence to suggest in this given scenario that crime has been committed. And Atiku said in the very communication, that's why context is important. In the same communication, he said this case has been reported to the EFCC. They have thoroughly investigated it, and there is no evidence of a wrongdoing. Ordinarily, if those lawyers are reasonable people, they will know that there is an estoppel there. And if they have any issue, it is not Atiku. They will contact the EFCC and then challenge the EFCC and not challenge Atiku. But pantophobia, what it does is that it distorts your rational thinking. It tends to give you the sudden anxiety where a senior advocate will behave like a first-year law student, or a professor of law can behave like somebody who is just trying to get admission into school. That's case number one. Case number two, this whole gamut of story that they are bringing, it is in a bid to cover up for what they know is about to come about an existing investigation in the EFCC, not fiction, existing investigation in EFCC that was submitted a few years ago by the former MD of Alpha Beta, where he indicted in his investigation corrupt practices by Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, the flag bearer of the All Progressives Congress. And in that petition, he outlined criminal activities that if the EFCC is to act upon it today, Asiwaju will be arraigned in court. And we, with the knowledge of law, are not even saying arrest him, because first you must investigate. The good thing for us is that this was submitted to them for years. For there is every reason to believe that they would have concluded investigation on that. And that's why these people did that, because they know we're going to call on EFCC to act by arraigning this man in the court. But we haven't even done anything yet. You know that on the evidence of law, this man has a conviction from a court in Chicago. And they know that the Nigerian people, their mind is made up on the basis of that we cannot elect somebody as president who will be a subject of blackmail from the country. They also know that some journalists did an investigation and they are writing a petition to NDLEA of investigation of certain drugs that were discovered in Lagos. And that is why they felt that by creating what do I call it? Like you are trying to distract somebody from the main issue that is to come. They came up with this issue that has no basis in law, no basis in fact, no basis in ethics, but the frenzy. When they pushed this young man and he released those things, the media houses in Nigeria didn't see it as anything reasonable to carry it. So for days, this thing was not covered. Then they now said, let us hold a press conference and blackmail the media. And that's what they did yesterday.
Yeah, but you haven't answered my question. The second question.
Blackmailed the media.
Mr. Bala, second question. I asked that very pointedly,
Okay,
that
what was it?
and I wasn't referring to your candidate. I was saying, in the event that a presidential candidate has corruption allegations in terms of fraudulent activities, is that enough for him to step aside? Just wanted to get a statement on that.
Oh, you see, your question cannot be determined before an election. And because you say in the event that he's found culpable. Now, the procedure for coming to that culpability is that if I report you to the law enforcement will investigate, and they don't give a timeline for investigation. They can finish today, they can finish next month, they can finish 6 months' time. The reason is because in investigation, they will look at all my claims. They will now go to their database to look at your activities. And in the course of investigation, it might even create what we call a web, where it will connect to other individuals. Now, that process that it will last for them to come to that conclusion, it is not something that can be concluded before the election, which will then give that point you are saying whether he should step away from that election. And even after the investigation is done, they will come up with a finding whether they have found credibility in that report or not. If they have not found credibility, it goes away. If they found credibility, then they will invite the person to come and now begin to answer questions on their findings. If he could not establish a concrete defense, then they will now proceed to charge him. So the question does not arise because the election would have been conducted assuming that even their claim has legibility. But in this case, they are writing a petition on what has been investigated with a finding that there is no evidence of wrongdoing. So it does not even warrant a question in the given circumstance. It is an exercise in futility. It is a wild goose chase. It is an attempt to distract the Nigerian people from the real issue at hand. Whether the Nigerian people will vote somebody who has mental instability, whether the Nigerian people will vote another 8 years of insecurity, bad economy, and corruption in the system, whether the Nigerian people are prepared to have a country where it can be called a pariah state, where the Nigerian people even would tolerate a campaign for the first time in history, where a political party established a militia they call Jagaban soldier or battalions with uniform in this very broad daylight. So it doesn't even arise at all.
Okay, Daniel Bala, 2 things. Now, in the midst of all this, which the APC has now branded Atiku'S, that's what they call it, Atiku'S. Don't you think it may be a good idea for the candidate personally to address the matter and not leave it to spokespersons? Because questions have been raised. Did he actually work for Waziri Atiku Abubakar? Was he at a point a member of the media committee of your presidential campaign? And did he in fact also write a book titled The Lion of Jada on the PDP presidential candidate? I thought some people are saying if the candidate were to come forward himself and address the issues instead of this, back and forth among their spokespersons. Then second, you talked about anxiety.
So let me...
Fears.
Okay.
Shouldn't the PDP itself be the ones to worry about what you call pantophobia? Why do I say that? Yesterday, the PDP campaign train was in Ekiti State. 20 out of the 26 members, candidates of your party seeking election into the State House of Assembly boycotted that rally. 7 out of 9 PDP candidates who are seeking National Assembly positions boycotted that rally. That's at the state level, Ekiti. If you add that to the drama of the G5 and integrity group, 38 days to the election, Governor Wike is still saying, wait for us, we will announce very soon. So shouldn't the PDP, in fact, also have that fear about the election?
So the answer is very simple, and I will try to answer them real quick. First, the pantophobia is experienced by all Progressives Congress and Asiwaju. That's why you see them doing that. But let me make the correction. When the political party, you see, whenever you hear gate, so when they say Atiku gate, Tinubu gate, or anything, it started in America. It is not yet eligible or qualified to be called a gate until official investigation has commenced from the officials of government. So it is even improper. I saw a TV station yesterday, they said, breaking news, Atiku gate. I just started wondering, how do you come about this? It started with Nixon. It was when the Congress commenced investigation, they call it that it is a gate. And since then, even when they did Dasuki Gate, it was when officially the government of Nigeria commenced investigation. Then the media can rightfully call it gate, because in other words, they are saying investigation has commenced. In this case, somebody wrote a letter, a paper, and media houses are saying Atiku'S Gate. I felt a little bit disappointed in that. But that's the point in with regards to that. Secondly, let's come to Ekiti. You know for sure, Dr. Abati, that in Ekiti, there are factions for some time we are trying to manage in that state of members of PDP. You know there is the former governor faction, you know there is a former senator or current senator faction, and a number of activities there. It is not strange or surprising where you have factional group happening that when you come for campaign, the faction that feel they have the ears or attention of the national body will turn up, and those other ones in protest will not want to turn up. Because if you are saying because of that we should have fears, you ought to have also reckoned the places we have been to. We have been to Kwara, we have been to Lagos, we have been to quite a number of places where we made a good case. And this is even the southwest where Emilokon comes from. And we're making a good case there. You also have to juxtapose that with the fact that people who ordinarily would have supported Tinubu at the moment have also declared him persona non grata. That is with respect to that. When you come to the G5, what people fail to realize is that anytime you say the G5, you must also say the orphan 5. They work hand in hand. They are birds of the same feather. The G5 creates orphan 5. In the states where we have the G5, there are people from APC running for governorship position. So all of the romance that Tinubu is having with them is a tacit expression of not just of his displeasure for the orphans in those states, but that he has torn away from them. Are you suggesting that Tony Cole in Rivers is not running for governorship, that they are treating Governor Wike like the Princess of Wales? If you go to Ibadan, look at Solarin, look at that fellow who people believe is very popular. He has been thrown through the window and they are talking with Makinde. If you go to Makodi, if you go to Benue, the reverend there, people are saying he has increased popularity. And these orphan 5 are not even aware that they have been mortgaged. They have been sold. They have been traded for the G5 that for now have not even come on board because both of them sat in different meetings and have not been able to come to terms or resolution. But this is how I rest my case with respect to that, Dr. Abati. You would have thought for the past 5-6 months of this melodramatic event, of these dances by the Jackson 5 led by Michael Jackson. We have seen the moonwalk. We have seen Billie Jean. We have seen Bad. We have seen Black or White. And 5 months later, People's Democratic Party has been adjudged as the party that is in a pole position to win the election. 5 months later, in states that APC control, you will see a rally conducted by them. And when they chant Nigeria, the people will say Atiku. 5 months later, you will see that Atiku Abubakar and Okowa are engaging at a scale where we are not only discussing Nigerian national interest to the Nigerian people about our agenda, we are even discussing foreign policy objective of the government. We are respected by the US, respected by the United Kingdom. 5 months later, you see that with all of this thing thrown, Atiku Abubakar has not moved an inch or even react to them. That is called presidential. That is called confidence. That is called trust in the movement. If Atiku was affected by pantophobia, Atiku would have been helter-skelter or talking like that. Can Nigerian people, for the life of me, honestly ask themselves an answer that we are prepared to have a president that will appear in the United Nations, and when he stands to address, he will say, the fellow citizens of the world, here we are in the United Nations, different from Bala Blue, Blue, and blah, blah. Or that he will say he brings electricity from America and converted it into yam and beans. Or he will say he will turn 50 million people into Agbado. And you see, if you look at the candidates running for the office, for the serious-minded Nigerians, it is quite evident. People in Nigeria, their minds are made up. It's like you're going to obedient people and you are trying to blackmail Peter Obi. You are singing hip hop, it will not move them. The Nigerian people have made up their mind. They've looked at these political parties. APC is on the extreme, playing religious politics. Labour on the extreme, playing religious politics and all kinds of things. PDP is the only party that has national strength with a common objective for a recovered Nigeria from the doldrum. 70 trillion, Abati.
I asked
That's
as part of
yes,
my question, yes, I asked as part of that question, would the presidential candidate of the PDP directly respond to some of those issues that have been raised by the man you call whistleblower?
And my answer is, he will not respond to a baseless distraction ahead of the election. We're making our case to the Nigerian people for election. And in which case, if the people believe in that blackmail, they will express that at the poll.
All right. So is this not similar to what the people have accused the APC presidential candidates of doing in terms of not responding to questions of this nature from Nigerians? If you're saying he's picking and choosing, does it mean that in the event that there was a case against him, should he become president, he'll do the same thing and decide to choose not to respond to the Nigerian people? The Nigerian people have asked the question. There's a video evidence out there. They deserve a response from him.
Nigerian people have not asked any question. The APC raised allegation. The Nigerian people, through the press, the one I know, but you can teach me, the one I know is that the press exists as the voice of the Nigerian people. The press have had series of debates and town hall, which Atiku has turned up in all of them and answered questions that border on the wishes and the concerns of the Nigerian people, on the economy, on security, on debt, on education, on healthcare. He has appeared. This one that you are asking is an allegation raised by All Progressives Congress and the sponsored blackmailer. It's not the Nigerian people. And we, the spokesperson, that's our duty. We have reacted to it. And I told you, on the basis of fact, on the basis of law, all these things are baseless. It is the press that should ask them the question that now that you have raised this blackmail, have you written to law enforcement? It's a relation of rule of law now. And if they say yes, has the law enforcement responded to you? If they say no, they will say then wait until the law enforcement respond to it. The press people can't prosecute anybody. But in terms of public perception, we are discussing the issues. You have raised valid questions. I've given you the answer. I've explained SPV. I said infraction has not been committed. And I said Atiku is in a pole position to win. And on all issues of the economy or any other thing, we are prepared to answer. But I can't for the life of me imagine that Atiku Abubakar, knowing this blackmail, will now stand and say he's responding to them and be distracted by the core objective of our recovered agenda for Nigeria.
Okay, two quick things. There's this controversy online about former Minister of Education, former Minister of Solid Minerals, former DG of the Madam Due Process, Obieze Christile, saying that your candidate should stop going about saying that he was the head of the economic management team of Nigeria at the time, and that he did so well he will repeat the magic this time around. What exactly was he in his capacity as Vice President of Nigeria? Okay. And then second, Alex Vines, the Director General of the Chatham House in London, was reported as saying that an invitation has been extended to Waziri Atiku Abubakar to also come to Chatham House, and they've not received any response. Is the presidential candidate of the PDP running away from that platform? Or you guys are also preparing for a Chatham House jamboree?
I like the fact that you even call it jamboree. I think I should assume you have answered that, but let me, for the avoidance of doubt, answer them. The first one, okay, I remember this last one, and then you remind me of the first. The Chatham House. The Chatham House, like I said the other time, is a building, but the institution running the Chatham House is Royal Institute of International Affairs. So what they usually do is they discuss about policies around the world. And when they raise up policies, they bring policymakers and people who are trying to think of change to come and have the conversation. And each time they invite anybody from anywhere in the world, you will see representation from around the world. So that when you speak, they will say you are addressing the world. You see, in those days when you appear in Chatham House, they will say somebody addressed the world. Now, check the ones that Asiwaju went. Who is the world there? It is APC Nigeria and APC London, then the assistant chair of Chatham House, and those other white people you see are the lobbyists that APC briefed to organize those events. They went and made a caricature of themselves. Then in the evening, they were singing Bugao, Eni, Bigao, and they're jumping. As if what they did in the morning amounted to displaying intelligence leading to what we want to change as a country. Atiku instead has gone above the Chatham House to talk about the people that influence policy, the government of the United Kingdom. It is like you're saying that somebody from America is coming here to Nigeria to hold a meeting in Nips in Jos. And you are saying that that one is much more important than somebody coming to talk to the government officials of Nigeria on policies and collaboration. Which one is bigger? They are holding to form. We are holding to substance. We are talking about things that matter to the Nigerian people. And therefore, Atiku is not obligated to appear there. There is no law in Nigeria or anywhere in the world that says when they call you, will go. After all, when you go to the Chatham House, what do? You speak. After you speak, one or two people will ask questions. Have Nigerians not been asking questions? Those that will vote. Most of those people, they are not vote. They don't come back to vote. The people that will vote in Nigeria have asked questions about electricity. They've asked questions about the economy. They have asked questions about healthcare. They even talked about insecurity in their homes. Farmers has asked, how can we go back to farm? And he has answered that. Let us stop this neo-colonialism, by thinking that entering a British Airways to land in London and speak to some people who their skin pigmentation is white, that is a conclusive proof that we've told you what. No, speak to the government. I will be moved and appreciate if these guys will go and engage with the government of the United Kingdom. Because after all is said and done, it is the government that will influence the policy and not the Chatham House people. You have raised the first one. I'm sorry, Dr. Abati.
About economic management. About economic managment. And not
yes, about the
economy.
Very
Atiku Abubakar never managed the economy of Nigeria.
First of all, Atiku'S, I respect her, very intellectual woman. But everybody knows she supports Peter Obi. You see, Peter Obi is supported by all the people, or most of the people that work in Obasanjo's government. Because Peter Obi's project is actually a third-term agenda of Obasanjo. If you see the people endorsing him, including lawyers, elder statesmen, and the rest, so it is not surprising she could say that. But let us talk on the issue. Who is the chairman of the Economic Council, the vice president? The head of the economic team and members of the economic team come with proposals, come and discuss policy issue. Not a single one of them can bypass the vice president and meet the president on subject of the economy, except if the president independently summon them. But the procedure is when you have deliberated, then the vice president, who is the chair, will take this and discuss with the president on the findings of those teams. Now, let us look at it. The chairman of an organization, the chairman of Arise TV and the MD of Arise TV, who is the most important one? Is it not the chairman? Is it not the chairman? Kilode, these things that she is doing, let her just come out and say, I'm supporting Peter Obi and campaign for him. And this is all we've been complaining. People who parade and masquerade themselves as neutrals when we know that they identified with certain people. So I challenge any policy expert in Nigeria to help us distinguish, differentiate, or counter this fact that the head of economic team, whether it is Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala, and the chairman of the National Economic Council, which one among them has the first option of access to the president on matters of the economy. And anything they discuss there, if the chairman discourages it, it won't go. That's why people say economic agenda under Buhari, people credit it to Osibanjo when they did economic recovery. Do you know why? Because after all these people speak in tongues, English and Latin and America, when they finish, it is Osibanjo that will take it to Buhari and discuss with Buhari. So what she is saying has no place in fact, no place in logic, no place in reality. Atiku Abubakar was the chairman of the Economic Council, and she's even saying most of them in the Economic Council were even scouted by Atiku. So let her just come and say, I'm supporting Obi. What has she said about what Obi did in Chatham House? What has she said about Obi's production to consumption to production? What has she said about the incoherent policy dishes that Peter Obi is given? Let us situate things. If I identify with somebody, I will first do disclosure. I support Atiku Abubakar. Anything I say, the right-thinking members of the society will first say, well, he's Atiku's supporter, so it is understandable, or he's Atiku's supporter, but even then he spoke far. But all these people that work for Obasanjo that are masquerading in all the places as neutrals or independent, meanwhile they are carrying out the same agenda of the third time, that one cannot stand.
Well, we'd like to thank you very much on that note, Daniel Bwala, spokesperson of the People's Democratic Party, for joining us on the morning show.